They say silence speaks louder than words, but when that silence comes from someone you once shared everything with, it doesn't just speak. It screams. It screams confusion, pain, and questions you can't seem to stop asking yourself. Why did they pull away? Why do they act so cold, so detached, as if you never existed? You replay moments in your mind searching for signs. But the truth is, what looks like rejection on the surface often hides a deeper truth underneath. And that truth is obsession, disguised behind indifference, fear, and control. See, avoidants don't handle love the way most people do. They don't chase it, they run from it. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Their fear of being consumed by emotion makes them hide behind distance, behind silence, behind that icy composure that fools everyone but you. The truth is, an avoidant who truly doesn't care simply moves on, quietly, easily, freely. But an avoidant who's obsessed, they linger, they overthink. They pretend they've moved on, yet every single move they make still orbits around you. You live rent-free in their mind, and that denial becomes their own prison. So when an avoidant suddenly stops responding, don't let that fool you. When they act emotionless, don't mistake that for peace. Because avoidance isn't peace. It's protection. It's the only way they know to guard a heart that once felt too deeply. What you're seeing is not rejection. It's obsession that doesn't know how to express itself without losing control. They distance themselves to feel safe, but deep down, they're haunted by you. You became the mirror that showed them everything they've been avoiding. Love, vulnerability, and truth. And that's what makes this so powerful. Because when an avoidant acts like they're done, what they're really saying is, I can't face what I feel for you. It's not that they've stopped caring. It's that caring hurts. And until they face that pain, they'll keep pretending. It's gone. But beneath that mask, obsession quietly grows. Every silence is a scream they refuse to let you hear. Today, we're going to uncover the 7 powerful signs that what you're seeing is not rejection, it's obsession in disguise. These signs reveal what's really happening behind their emotional walls, and how their distance often means they are more attached than ever before. When an avoidant pulls away, it's easy to believe they're rejecting you, that their silence means disinterest, that their distance means they've moved on. But here's the truth that hits deeper than most people realize. It's not you they're avoiding. It's the reflection of themselves that you awaken in them. You are their mirror, and every time they look at you, they see parts of themselves they've spent a lifetime running from. See, love doesn't just reveal who we adore, it reveals who we are. And for someone with an avoidant attachment style, love is the one emotion that tears down every wall they've built to protect themselves. When they fall for you, even quietly, even secretly, they start to feel exposed. You don't just make them feel loved, you make them feel seen. And being seen terrifies them, because for years they've learned to survive by hiding their emotions, numbing their needs, and convincing themselves that independence is safety. But then you came along. You offered real connection, something deep, raw, and genuine. You didn't just love them, you understood them. And that understanding cut through the mask they've been wearing. Suddenly all their old defenses, the emotional walls, the avoidance, the silence, started shaking. Because when they're with you, they can't hide behind their usual armor. You see the fear in their eyes. You see the cracks in their strength. You see the softness they've buried under years of emotional control. And that terrifies them more than rejection itself. That's why they run. That's why they ghost, withdraw, and push away the one person who sees their truth. Because you've become their mirror, the reflection of everything they've tried not to feel. And here's where the twist comes in. Their distance isn't peace. It's conflict. It's an internal war between the part of them that craves connection and the part that's terrified of losing control. So when you see them retreat into silence, know this. It's not rejection. It's obsession wrapped in fear. They think about you when they wake up. They replay conversations they'll never admit to remembering. They check your online presence in secret, making sure you're still there, but from a distance, safe enough to protect their pride. They won't reach out, but they'll never really let go either. Why? Because your energy became their reflection point. You made them feel, you made them confront the parts of themselves they've kept hidden from the world. The child inside them that never felt safe to love openly. The adult who learned that closeness equals pain, avoida. NTS often developed their patterns early, when love felt conditional, when vulnerability led to disappointment. So when real love arrives, it doesn't feel safe, it feels threatening. And when someone like you enters their world, someone who loves deeply, listens without judgment, and shows consistency, they're torn. because their heart wants it, but their nervous system resists it. It's like standing under the sun after years of darkness. It's beautiful, but it burns. And that's what the silent mirror effect truly means. Your presence illuminates their inner shadows. You reflect back the love they crave and the fear they carry. So every time they pull away, they're not rejecting you. They're trying to silence the noise inside them that screams, "I'm scared to need you this much." But obsession doesn't disappear when they walk away. It grows in the quiet. It grows in the unanswered questions, in the unspoken words, in the memory of your voice that plays in their head at 2 a.m. Wish. An avoidant stares at the ceiling at night. They think of you, not because they miss you in the traditional sense, but because they miss themselves when they were with you. You brought out the version of them that was soft, open, human, and losing that feels like losing a piece of themselves. That's why even months after distance, they'll circle back. They'll test the waters, reach out indirectly, or try to see if you've moved on. Because deep down, they're not searching for you. They're searching for themselves through you. Here's the hard truth. You can't save them from that reflection. You can't love them enough to silence their fears. The only way they'll ever find peace is by facing the person in the mirror, by learning to sit with their emotions instead of running from them. But your role, even in silence, was powerful. You awakened something in them they can't unsee. That's why they'll never truly forget you. Because once you become someone's mirror, the one who made them feel alive, vulnerable, and real, they can't erase that image. So when you feel their silence, don't chase it. Action, it's strategy. One rooted in fear, not indifference. See, emotional checkmate happens when their feelings have grown too strong to ignore but too terrifying to admit. They'll test your patience, your loyalty, your strength. They'll pull back after moments of connection just to see if you'll follow. It's not because they don't want you there. It's because they want proof that love won't disappear the moment they loosen control. Their withdrawal becomes a weapon of security. Every silence is a test, every cold response a shield, every mixed signal a cry for balance between safety and love. You see, in the mind of an avoidant, closeness equals danger. It threatens their autonomy, their ability to stay self-sufficient and emotionally untouchable. So when they sense themselves falling too hard, they subconsciously create distance, not to hurt you, but to calm the chaos inside them. Yet ironically, that very distance makes them think about you more. Every unanswered message echo louder in their mind. Every time they see your name and resist reaching out, it burns deeper. Their silence isn't indifference, it's obsession playing defense. What makes it a true checkmate is this: they trap themselves in the very game they think they're winning. They want to protect their heart, but they end up building a cage around it. They crave closeness, but their every move pushes it further away. They want you to stay, but their fear of vulnerability makes them act like they don't care if you leave. And the more they suppress what they feel, the stronger those feelings grow. You might notice it, the way they watch you from a distance, how they suddenly reappear when you start to move on, how they ask mutual friends about you but act casual when confronted. It's not random. It's emotional chess. An invisible game where love and fear take turns making moves. They'll disappear for weeks, not to forget you, but to see if they still feel the same intensity when you're gone. And every time they realize they do, the obsession deepens. It's almost tragic. The one thing they crave the most is the one thing they sabotage repeatedly. Real love exposes their fragility, and instead of surrendering to it, they tighten their grip on control. They'll act fine, post pictures, laugh in public, but their mind is a constant battlefield between longing and logic. That's why when you detach, it rattles them to the core. They feel their control slipping, and when control slips, the fear resurfaces, but so does the obsession. Here's the truth: avoidance isn't strength, it's fear wrapped in strategy. It's the illusion of power in a game they never truly win. Because emotional checkmate doesn't end with victory, it ends with regret. The more they try to outsmart love, the more love outsmarts them. Eventually they realize that control doesn't protect them, it isolates them. And the person they tried to keep at arm's length becomes the one they can't stop thinking about. So when you see their coldness, their silence, their mixed signals, remember, this is not rejection. This is their way of trying to survive feelings that overwhelm them. You're not watching a person who doesn't care. You're watching someone silently drowning in emotions they don't know how to swim through. Their heart says, "I need you," but their fear says, "I'll lose myself if I do." That's emotional checkmate, a love story trapped in fear's hands. There's something haunting about how an avoidant lets you go. Because deep down, they never really do. They may vanish, act cold, even convince themselves that it's over, but somehow you still feel them, you still sense their energy, pulling at you in moments you least expect. That's not coincidence. That's the invisible leash, the unspoken connection that keeps both of you tethered long after the words "it's over" are said. It's the emotional residue of something too powerful to erase and too painful to admit. Avoidants are stirs of distance. They cut off contact, delete messages, and bury memories as if that will erase the emotional imprint you left on their soul. But the truth is, you became a part of their emotional wiring. Every conversation, every shared silence, every small act of kindness etched itself into their subconscious. And while they may not reach out, they still reach back energetically. They'll stalk your social media under fake accounts, randomly check old photos, or suddenly appear online the moment you do. You can feel it, that strange pull that brings them to your mind for no logical reason. That's not your imagination, it's their energy still tied to yours. See, the avoidant's biggest illusion is believing they can detach without consequence. They run from closeness, thinking distance will give them control again. But emotional bonds don't dissolve because you ignore them. They deepen in silence. Every attempt to suppress their feelings just amplifies the connection. They may not message you, but they'll feel a pang of jealousy when they sense you've moved on. They might not say it, but they'll replay your words, your laugh, your essence when they're alone. That's the invisible leash, an emotional echo that keeps them bound, not to the relationship, but to the feeling of what they lost. And here's the twist. The more they deny their feelings, the more power that leash has. Avoidants live in contradiction. They crave independence but ache for connection. They want to be free, yet they can't fully let go. So even as they walk away, a part of them keeps looking back. They'll convince themselves they're over you, until something reminds them of you. A song, a scent, a place, a random dream, and suddenly they're back in that moment. Their walls crumble for a second, and they feel everything they've tried to bury. That's why their silence feels so loud. Because while they're physically absent, their energy never really leaves. You might notice sudden waves of sadness, or memories flooding your mind for no reason. That's the energetic pull between two people who once shared emotional intimacy. It's not mystical nonsense. It's psychology. Human bonds create neural pathways that the brain doesn't simply erase. So when you are emotionally connected, your energy synchronized, and even after separation, that imprint remains. Avoidants hate this feeling. It scares them, because they built their life around control, around emotional detachment. Yet no matter how much they try, they can't stop thinking about you. You became the emotional contradiction they can't solve, the one person they love but can't face, the one connection they crave but can't control. They'll try to replace you, distract themselves with work, new people, or hobbies. But nothing feels the same. Why? Because real connection can't be substituted. It can only be faced, and that's the trap of the invisible leash. The more they fight it, the tighter it pulls. It's not a obsession with you as a person. It's about obsession with what you made them feel. You awakened emotional depth in someone who's spent their entire life avoiding depth. You showed them love that felt safe, but also terrifying. And now, every time they try to move forward, that feeling lingers like a shadow they can't outrun. You might think they've forgotten you, but you'll see signs that they haven't. They'll randomly like an old post. They'll appear online seconds after you do. They'll disappear and then suddenly reach out months later with a meaningless hey. But behind that hey is the weight of everything unsaid. They're testing if the leash is still there, if the connection still breathes. And it does, because obsession doesn't die in silence, it hides there. So when you feel their energy, that sudden rush of emotion, that unexplainable heaviness, don't question your worth. You're not imagining it. What you're feeling is the echo of someone who still hasn't released you. They may act free, but emotionally, they're still tethered to what they couldn't face. And that's not your burden to carry. It's theirs to confront. The invisible leash is proof that love, even when buried under fear, doesn't vanish. It waits. It lingers in the spaces between words and the pauses between memories, and the energy that keeps two hearts aware of each other long after separation. And one day the avoidant realizes this truth. You can block someone on your phone, but not on your soul. You can delete photos, but not memories. You can run from love, but not from what it awakens inside you. And that's what keeps them coming back. Not to reclaim control, but to feel what they lost, connection that was real, deep, and terrifyingly human. It's the moment that breaks your heart, when you finally feel like you're getting close to them, when you can sense their walls softening, their eyes finally showing what their words never could, and suddenly they vanish. No fight, no explanation, no warning. Just silence. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? But here's the hidden truth. You didn't do anything wrong. Their disappearance wasn't rejection. It was reverse withdrawal. See, for most people, withdrawal happens when love fades. But for avoidance, it happens when love grows. The closer they get to feeling something real, the stronger their instinct becomes to run. Why? Because closeness feels like danger. Connection feels like losing control. To them, vulnerability is a trap, one they've promised themselves never to fall into again. So when they start to feel attached, their nervous system panics. Their mind starts whispering lies. You're too exposed. You're losing yourself. You'll get hurt again. And before they can stop it, they pull back, not because they want to, but because it feels like survival. Reverse withdrawal isn't about falling out of love. It's about being terrified of how deeply they've fallen in. You represent emotional intimacy, the very thing they crave and fear simultaneously. When they're with you, they feel seen, safe, alive. But those feelings come at a cost. They threaten the emotional armor they've built for years. You see, an avoidance identity often revolves around self-protection. They've taught themselves that needing someone equals weakness, that love leads to pain, that emotional dependency will destroy them. So when you awaken love inside them, they start to lose the sense of safety they've built through detachment. And that's when they withdraw, right at the peak of connection. They'll suddenly act busy, pick fights, or claim they need space. It's not that their heart changed. It's that their fear took over. They're not retreating from you. They're retreating from the version of themselves that's starting to feel again. Because for them, love feels like chaos. The more they feel, the more they fear they'll lose control. But here's the paradox. The more they run, the stronger he pull becomes. Reverse withdrawal doesn't erase emotion, it amplifies it. Distance doesn't bring relief, it creates obsession. They'll replay your last words, the last look, the last touch over and over again. They'll scroll through your pictures, convince themselves they don't care, and then check again just to be sure. That's the internal battle of the avoidant. Wanting love, but fearing surrender. They might tell themselves they're done, but deep down, they're not at peace. Because peace doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from acceptance. And until they learn to sit with their emotions instead of running from them, they'll keep repeating the same pattern. Fall deeply, panic, withdrawal, regret, repeat. You'll notice it, that cycle of intensity followed by distance, affection followed by silence. Every time they start to feel safe, they sabotage it. Every time they get close, they shut down. That's not lack of love, that's fear in motion. And if you've been on the receiving end of this, you've felt the confusion it brings. You felt the warmth one day and the coldness the next. You tried to understand how someone could care so much and still disappear. But that's the essence of reverse withdrawal. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their internal war. They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting their own emotional vulnerability. Because when they look at you, they see the possibility of connection that could heal them, and that healing feels too dangerous. The truth is, avoidants aren't emotionless, they're overwhelmed. They've spent so long avoiding pain that love feels foreign. And when someone finally reaches that guarded heart, it triggers all the buried emotions they've suppressed. Fear, longing, shame, hope. It's too much too fast, and the only way they know how to cope is by disappearing. But the tragedy is this: running doesn't erase feelings, it magnifies them. Their silence becomes a container for obsession. Their withdrawal becomes a prison built by fear. And here's what happens next. Time passes. They think distance will bring peace, but instead it brings emptiness. Every distraction fades. Every attempt to move on feels hollow. Because what they were running from wasn't you. It was the part of themselves that came alive with you. And once you awaken that part, it doesn't go back to sleep. It haunts them, reminds them, calls them. That's why they come back, sometimes weeks later, sometimes months. Not because they suddenly decided to care, but because they never stopped caring. They just couldn't handle the feeling of it. Reverse withdrawal is the avoidant's greatest paradox. They disappear not to forget, but because they remember too much. They vanish to find safety, only to realize that safety means nothing without connection. And by the time they understand that, they've already lost the one person who love them through their silence. So when they vanish, don't take it personally. It's not your fault. You didn't scare them away. Love did. Real, raw, uncontrollable love. You didn't lose their affection, they lost their courage. And one day they'll realize that running from love doesn't save them from pain. It only delays the healing that love was trying to offer all along. You might think they've moved on. They're not calling, not texting, not even looking your way. They look calm. They seem composed. But deep down, they're not. Inside, they're stuck in what I call the obsession loop, a mental and emotional cycle where their heart screams for you while their mind keeps trying to silence it. Every time they suppress their emotions, every time they bury the thought of you, they're actually feeding the very attachment they're trying to escape. Avoidants don't know how to let go. They only know how to hide. But what they hide doesn't disappear. It grows stronger in the dark. That's the tragedy of avoidance. Their silence isn't freedom. It's fixation disguised as control. You see, when they walked away, they didn't resolve their feelings. They just paused them. But the human heart doesn't obey logic. So even while they're living their daily life, something small can reignite it all. A scent, a place, a song, a memory. And just like that, they're back in the loop. The obsession loop begins with denial. I don't care. It's over. I'm fine. But beneath that denial is pain, because denial is the first stage of emotional obsession. The harder they try to suppress what they feel, the louder it gets. They'll distract themselves with new faces, new routines, new goals. But every distraction becomes a quiet reminder that nothing feels like you. You were not just a person to them. You were an emotional trigger, a mirror of everything they tried to numb. And here's the irony. They left to feel free, but the freedom feels empty. Their avoidance becomes their punishment. They'll catch themselves wondering what you're doing, whether you've moved on, whether you still think about them. And when they realize they don't have those answers anymore, the obsession begins. They'll scroll through your old photos, type out messages they'll never send, replay old arguments to convince themselves they were right. But deep down, they know it's not about being right. It's about missing what was real. You see, for an avoidant, obsession doesn't show up as chasing, it shows up as checking. Checking if you're online, checking your last scene, checking your energy in silence. They won't admit it, but they're still emotionally tied to you. Every time they suppress their emotions, they reinforce the connection. The mind can't erase what it refuses to feel. That's why they often dream about you, because the subconscious doesn't play by their rules. In their dreams, the truth escapes. You appear not as memory, but as emotion, the one they've buried but never healed. And this is where the loop traps them. Step 1, feel too much. Step 2, run. Step 3, suppress. Step 4, remember. Step 5, spiral. Step 6, repeat. They can't stop thinking about you, but they also can't bring themselves to face you. That's obsession. The mind's attempt to control what the heart refuses to release. And every time they try to move forward, they end up circling back to you, emotionally and energetically. You might notice patterns, sudden reappearances, random messages, subtle likes on your posts after months of silence. It's not coincidence. It's the loop pulling them back. They're caught between fear and desire, silence and longing. They want to reach out, but pride holds them hostage. They want closure, but closure requires vulnerability. So instead, they keep you alive in the only way they can, through thoughts, through fantasies, through emotional memory. You become the one they almost had, the one they can't replace, the one who became their emotional addiction. Avoidance experience love like withdrawal, the absence of why. OU isn't peace, it's craving. It's not the kind of craving they'll admit out loud, but it shows up in their behavior. They'll overwork, overthink, overcompensate, anything to drown out the inner voice that says, you lost something real. And when they see you thriving, smiling, glowing, it stings. Because while they're pretending to be fine, they're haunted by the thought that maybe you finally let go. That's what keeps the loop alive. The fear that you found peace without them. They'll convince themselves. They don't care, but their actions betray them. They'll appear in your dreams because you appear in theirs. They'll sense your detachment because it triggers their panic. Avoidants are emotionally intuitive. They feel energy even when they deny emotion. And when they sense that you've truly moved on, it shakes them. Because obsession doesn't survive closure, it survives confusion. And when you stop chasing, they lose control of the narrative. That's when their obsession aches its peak. But the loop isn't permanent. It only breaks when they face the truth, that running from love doesn't erase it, that you can't heal by pretending you never felt. The mind can rationalize, but the heart remembers. And until they learn to sit with that discomfort, they'll keep orbiting around you from a distance in silence, but always tied by emotion. So when you think they've forgotten, remind yourself, silence isn't always indifference. Sometimes it's the sound of someone fighting feelings they don't understand. You are not just another chapter in their life. You were the mirror that showed them how deeply they could love and how deeply they could fear that love. And that's why they'll never truly escape the obsession loop, because what they're really trying to forget is how you made them feel alive. When an avoidant loses someone they care about, they don't mourn like everyone else. They don't cry. They don't talk. They don't even admit they're hurting. Instead, they substitute. They replace emotions with distractions, love with logic, connection with control. But here's the secret that reveals everything. Every substitution is just a placeholder for you. Every distraction is an attempt to silence the echo of your presence that won't stop ringing inside them. They'll tell themselves they've moved on. They'll dive into work, hobbies, gym sessions, or even new relationships. On the surface, it looks like they're thriving. But deep down, every moment of stillness feels unbearable, because stillness means feeling, and feeling means remembering. So they keep moving, keep distracting, keep pretending. They fill their life with noise, but nothing drowns the sound of what they lost. They scroll through social media, see something that reminds them of you, and suddenly their chest tightens. They grieve the version of themselves that existed with that person. You see, with you, they felt something they rarely allow themselves to feel: safety. You created an emotional environment where they didn't have to perform, where they didn't have to be perfect, where they could just be. And losing that feels like losing oxygen. But because vulnerability terrifies them, they try to substitute it. They seek new experiences that mimic the emotional high you gave them, but none of it feels the same. The new person they meet, they'll compare them to you subconsciously. The laughter sounds different. The energy feels dull. The connection feels shallow. They'll try to recreate what you had without ever admitting that's what they're doing. But deep down, they know you were not replaceable. You were an emotional blueprint that no one else fits into, and that realization is what breaks them slowly, quietly, internally. See, substitution is avoidance disguised as healing. It's their way, convincing themselves they're fine. I'm busy. I'm happy. I've moved on. But behind that smile is a mind full of what-ifs. They'll tell people they're doing great, but late at night when everything gets quiet, the truth surfaces. They'll remember your laugh, your patience, the way you made them feel like they could finally exhale. And in that stillness, the substitutions crumble. Because you can't replace energy. You can only distract from it. The more they try to substitute, the more the contrast becomes unbearable. The excitement of a new conversation fades faster. The comfort of someone else's presence feels foreign. The more they pretend, the emptier they become. It's like chasing shadows. The shape looks familiar, but the warmth is gone. That's when they start realizing that what they're missing isn't just a person. It's connection. It's understanding. It's home. And here's what hurts them the most. You were the one person who saw beyond their defenses. You saw the ire silence and didn't fill it with judgment. You stayed through their distance. You loved them in a language they didn't even know how to speak. And when they lost that, they lost something they didn't even know they needed. Now, every new experience, every new face becomes a reflection of what they're missing. That's emotional substitution, trying to feed the soul with things that don't nourish it. They'll go through cycles: distraction, denial, realization, regret. They'll run toward anything that feels easier than facing their emotions. But nothing lasts, because when love is real, when connection is genuine, it imprints itself in your nervous system. It becomes a part of you, and no amount of distraction can rewrite that memory. Eventually, they start noticing the pattern. How every attempt to move on feels shallow. How every distraction ends with the same emptiness. How every substitute fades into silence. That's when the truth hits. They never replaced you, they just postponed. Ned feeling your absence. And once the distractions stop working, the emotions they buried come rushing back all at once. That's the moment the avoidant realizes the cost of substitution. Because the pain they were running from didn't disappear. It multiplied. They thought replacing you would numb the ache, but it only deepened it. Because every time they tried to fill the void whispered your name, and that's when obsession turns into awareness. They finally see that what they were avoiding all along wasn't you. It was their own capacity to love. You were the trigger, but the truth is bigger than that. They were never afraid of you. They were afraid of what they became with you. Open, vulnerable, human. So when they finally stop running, when they sit alone in that silence they once used to escape, they'll feel it all. The love, the loss, the longing, the regret. And that's when they understand the truth about emotional substitution. You can replace a routine, a habit, a distraction, but you can't replace connection. Because connection doesn't live in the mind, it lives in the soul. And no matter how far they run, that soul still remembers you. If you've made it to the end of this message, then I want you to know something. You have strength beyond what you realize. Because listening to something like this, understanding the psychology of love, pain, and human fear, it means you've felt it, you've lived it, you've carried emotions that most people run from. But you didn't run, you chose to understand, and that is healing in motion. You see, love doesn't fail because we're weak. It fails because we're human. We love deeply, we fear losing, and sometimes the people we care for don't have the capacity to meet us where we stand. But that doesn't mean your love was wasted. The way you loved, with patience, empathy, and truth, was never a mistake. You were someone's awakening. You showed them a mirror of what love can be, even if they weren't Rhea. Died to face it. And that's powerful beyond words. If you're still healing, I want you to remember this. Their silence doesn't define your worth. Their distance doesn't erase your impact. And their fear doesn't undo the love you gave. You didn't lose them. You found yourself. You discovered what your heart is capable of, and that's something to be proud of. You've grown. You've transformed. You've learned that love is not about chasing what runs, but cherishing what stays. So thank you, truly, for being here, for listening, and for allowing this message to be part of your journey. Whether you're watching this in pain or in peace, know this, you are evolving. Every heartbreak, every silence, every goodbye is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded in self-worth. Your story isn't over, it's just shifting chapters. If this message touched your heart, I want you to take a deep breath right now. Feel your strength. Feel your progress. You didn't come this far to stow. Be here. You came this far to rise, to love yourself the way you wished they did, because one day you'll look back and realize that the pain you felt was simply life removing what wasn't meant to stay, so that what's meant for you can finally arrive. Until then, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and never forget the kind of love you gave is exactly the kind of love that will come back to you, multiplied. Thank you for being part of this message. Thank you for your time, your heart, and your courage. This is not the end. This is your awakening. Until next time, stay grounded, stay grateful, and keep moving forward. Goodbye for now, but never goodbye forever.